Welcome back to the SBK Betting Podcast with Ross Millar and myself, Tom Collins. Strap in for a really good episode. 3 feature race previews. We will also touch on some events at Ascot. We'll look ahead towards the John Durkan on Sunday and provide our naps and next best. So hopefully plenty of insight, plenty of entertainment and some winners as well over the next 20 minutes or so. Before we kick off, I'm very happy to mention that SBK has a new customer offer. You sign up, you bet your first £10, and now you get £50 in free bets. Not £40, £50 in free bets. T's and C's do apply, but go and take advantage of that if you're not already signed up to SBK. Right, last week, we had the November meeting at Cheltenham. I was there. It was very cold. The weather was not ideal, especially on the Friday, but we had some good racing. You know, I thought we had potential Cheltenham Festival winners in the future that ran there. And Ross, to be fair, you had a very good week because not only did we both put up July Flower, but you also had the Paddy Power Gold Cup winner in Panic Attack, who beat my horse, Vincenzo, into second, who beat your other horse, Holy Joe Smoke, into third. So we had the 1, 2, 3 on the pod. It was a good race, wasn't it?
It was a good race. I wouldn't be a Dan Skelton fanboy. There's no doubt about that. But I just thought it really showed this sort of clinical edge he seems to have this year, that he's picking these horses to land the big pots. He's winning these sort of, they call them future stars, don't they, novices chases, which have a slightly bigger prize pot. He's winning those with lesser horses, but by virtue of race fitness. He just looks to have taken it just to another level again. I thought it was a really good performance, really good ride. I think the horses that finished in behind, well worthy of consideration on the December Gold Cup, which will be on the new course, a little more of a stamina test maybe. So I'm just not sure your selection, Vincenzo, got into a great rhythm in his jumping, which surprised me because I thought that was going to be an asset. Maybe that sharp turning track just didn't suit him. But yeah, good racing. July Flower won the Arkle trial. I think she'll struggle to win an Arkle myself, but we'd have said the same thing about Put the Kettle On at the same time, wouldn't we? And she went and did it for the same trainer, so never discount them.
Yeah, she was very exuberant over her fences, July Flower. I'm just a little bit worried that that's going to be a negative moving forward. She got from one side to the other, no problem, but she went up rather than forward. And that lack of slickness is a problem when you get into the best races against faster and better horses. Briefly, I want to know if I was biased or not, because obviously I was there. I watched the race, the Paddy Power Gold Cup. I was stood near the finish line, so I didn't necessarily get the best of views of the last fence. In my personal opinion, watching that live, I thought Vincenzo had a great chance of winning, but he lost his chance at the last. Do you think Panic Attack would have won anyway had Vincenzo been fluent there?
Well, you perhaps asking the wrong person, but I was on him anti-post, so I had plenty of skin in the game. My view was that she was going to win going to the last. I just thought the mistake came because he was starting to run a little bit on vapours, but he'll jump better in the future for sure. It's not that wasn't his only chance of winning one of those big pots. He'll definitely land one.
Yeah, for sure. He's a horse with a lot of upside, and we'll talk more about horses in Di Walters silks coming up on this podcast. And Ross has already said he's not a Harry and Dan Skelton fanboy. Wait and see some of his selections. Right, 3 in-depth previews coming up for this weekend. We're going to begin at Haydock with the Stayers Handicap Hurdle. This is going to be run at 2:25. If you go back to last year, this was an absolute bog, and Shoot First won it for Charles Burns. A huge drifter in the market. I think he went up 25-1 when he opened around 9-2 after getting some support the night before. He's back to try and retain his crown, but this time around he's 8-1 at the time of recording, Thursday, 11:37 a.m. That price is likely to fluctuate. Not quite sure which way. It's Charles Burns. Sometimes his horses are backed off the boards and sometimes they drift like they cannot possibly win. So watch out for him in the market. This is a competitive race, though. We have recent Cheltenham winner Marchon 2 topping the market around 7-2, 4-1. And before I come to your selection, Ross, and your preview of this race, it's worth noting that SBK has a 20% winnings boost on this event, a 2:25 at Haydock on Saturday. So if you do like something in this Stayers Handicap Hurdle, make sure you bet with SBK. Ross, firstly, before you go into your selection, what do you make of Shoot First? Because I feel like this race just revolves around him.
Yeah, it does, TC, but I've been burned by the Burn stable too many times. So I have to say, I just slightly, I give them a look because, of course, you have to look at everything. But I think there's a danger when you're looking at a race like this, which, let's face it, is fiercely competitive. I think it's the most competitive race we've looked at this season over the jumps. It even makes some of those 7 furlong handicaps at Ascot that you love look easy. you can spend a lot of time trying to second guess Charles Burns. You're never going to do it. So, yeah, watch the market. That might give you a clue. I didn't think that this better ground was necessarily an advantage for him. He sort of slogged it out last year, as you said. So I passed him over, and I've gone for two from my favourite stable I've always been a massive fan of. The first is Ace of Spades, Harry Skelton on for Dan Skelton. I, I've watched it back. I backed him on the day. I still don't know how he didn't win at Ayr last year on Scottish National Day, travelled into the race really well, and then just seemed to flounder. And then when you watch it back, he is a little bit one pace when he comes off the bridle. He doesn't always find he doesn't find that gear. He just stays going. But he was really good on his return at Aintree. I thought he won a shade snugly. There's bound to have been a little bit left in the locker fitness wise for that. He didn't go up a whole heap in the handicap. You go back from some of his novice form, suggests he's still well handicapped. He stays this trip well. He won a novice hurdle at Kelso over 2 miles 6 and was very strong at the finish there. So I think he's got really strong credentials. But then the other one I liked from the same stable is Joyo Machan, who we have both followed, I think probably to our cost, because I don't think he's landed one yet. But he's very well handicapped. He's been dropped £1 for what can only be described as a canter round at Cheltenham in October under Liam Harrison. And if you see Liam Harrison jocked up on one for the Skelton yard, it generally does mean that they're just going to have a bit of a sighter for something further down the line. Mark of 137 on everything he did last year suggests he's still feasibly handicapped. He was second over this trip at Utoxeter. Harry Skelton got there a mile too soon, took up the running going over the second last and got run down by, I think it was Red Risk of Paul Nicholls. Second earlier in the season as well, over a shorter trip to a horse that suggests he's really well handicapped still. Harry Atkins takes £7 off. He's pretty inexperienced, but make no bones about it, the Skelton Yard owe him a big day because he copped a 14-day ban earlier in the season for his ride on their Grand Annual winner at Cheltenham, which he was clearly riding to instructions, and sort of young lad overdid it, made it a bit too obvious. 14 days is a long time off. He's ridden Joyo Machan before. He was third at Wetherby, where he's quite an eye catcher on that occasion. I think he's got a really nice chance. He'll like the trip. He'll like the ground. They've said they're going to give him a deliver him later, which is going to suit him, and it should be very possible in a race like this where there'll be plenty of pace on, and someone's bound to go for home too soon. I would just say the last one off my list, and I really struggle to get him off my list, is Forest's Pearl for Fergal O'Brien. Tom Brown taking £5 off means he runs off a mark of 130. He's a really talented horse. I just think the ground is going to dry, and that's not going to suit him. But if the weather forecast's wrong and the rain comes, he's a dangerous horse to dismiss. He's a talented animal.
Yeah, I did look at the weather forecast. To me, on what the forecast I looked at, it looked like it was dry today, Thursday, dry Friday, and then some rain on Saturday morning. So ground currently listed as good to soft. We'll see how that pans out. Two selections then for Ross, both from the Dan Skelton yard. Ace of Spades, the number one string, and probably Ross's number one play. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, I think so, because I think Joyo Machan is well handicapped regardless of the £7 off or not. So I think Harry would have had to pick. It's not like Joyo Machan's too high in the handicap and they need to take some weight off. So yeah, I think Ace of Spades is their number one, my number one.
Sure. And the other one is Joyo Machan, who I have fallen off the edge of the cliff with. And if he goes and wins this, I'll be extremely sad. But he is definitely well handicapped. If the Skeltons want him to win and if the horse puts it all together, he could take this prize. We'll see. Maybe there's a future conquest down the line for him. Ross, before I give my selection, can I get a quick thought on Hartington as well? Purely on the basis that I had a look at some stats, and Sean Bowen has only ever ridden for Joe Tizard 5 times, 1 victory. Seems like a bit of an odd but a positive jockey booking here.
Yeah, and a horse that takes a fair bit of pushing and shoving. So Sean Bowen's going to be ideal on there. Joe Tizard 32%. I mean, honestly, you could throw me, I think, pretty much anything out the field, and I'd give it a chance. I mean, apart from Navajo Indy, he's got no chance. I don't know what you've gone for.
How dare you? Yeah, Navajo Indy is my play. He is a horse that Ross and I have put up numerous times on these videos in the past. He's very much like Joyo Machan, albeit we've had more success with this horse. I can remember back to the Newbury days last season where he just gets himself tailed off or too far back and then comes with a huge late run in the race to pick up the pieces, but just struggles to get his head in front because of that running style. I'm thinking that maybe the step up to 3 miles will actually help him. I don't know if he'll definitely stay. Obviously, the running style suggests that he will, but that's not always the case. especially if a horse just drops themselves out because they don't want to go their top gear for a long period of time. I know that he has the talent. I think this course is going to be really suitable for him. A long home straight. He takes a while to get up to that sixth gear, and maybe the long straight will help him at Haydock. But this is more of a guess, more of a last chance saloon for Navajo Indy. And he actually ran really well to start this season. So I'll give him one more shot, around 10-1 each way in what is a very, very competitive race. Okay, on to the Grade 1 Betfair Chase next. This race is not as competitive. It's going to be run at 3 p.m. at Haydock. There has been plenty of repeat winners in here. We've had the likes of Q-Card, Bristol de Mai, Royal Pagaille, and they are just in the last 10 years, those horses have won this event on numerous occasions. Now, Royal Pagaille is back again, but maybe younger legs will get the better of him this time around. The market suggests it'll be Grey Dawning who does so. He's a relatively short price at around 5-4, 11-10 in places. You can find bigger at the time of recording, but I'm not sure that's going to last. Then you have Haiti Couleur, who won well, despite it being a prep run, on his comeback. He's at around 3-1. Then Handstands at 6-1. What are your thoughts here, Ross?
I think it's a disappointing field. That'd be my overwhelming thought. I put Royal Pagaille up last year. I love the horse, and he loves Haydock, but he had his ground last year. I know Venetia Williams doesn't like it when you say that he needs desperate ground. But he needs desperate ground, particularly at this time of life. She's yet to really hit the straps as well. So I thought it was fairly easy this year to sort of look away from him. And the more I looked, the more I just thought that Grey Dawning has got really compelling claims. His second in Aintree, I was disappointed because I backed him, so of course I was disappointed and tipped him, and I thought he'd win it, but maybe he bumped into a sort of rejuvenated Gaelic Warrior who sort of ran really well at the back end of last season. And then when you look at it again, he's now run at Aintree 4 times Grey Dawning. He's yet to win, including a couple of short prices. Conversely, he won the Graduation Chase at Haydock 2 years ago. Really, sort of performance that really launched him onto the stage, if you like. He was very good with his jumping, very fast, very slick. Does jump a bit out to his left, that can be a bit of a concern. But then when you look at it, he's the highest rated, and he's the highest rated for a reason. He's just better than them. Haiti Couleur, I love. I had a real love affair with this horse last year. I cottoned onto him quite early. I was very impressed by what he did at Newbury over hurdles. And I thought Sean Byrne put it very well in sort of referencing the rated improvement. He said, he couldn't win a handicap off 137 over hurdles 2 seasons ago, and he won off 147 at Newbury. It's a really good performance, and he is a much better chaser than he is a hurdler because he's a really good jumper. You get more fence in a chase than you get in a hurdle, so that stands to reason. But I just struggle to think that this track is going to suit him on this sort of ground. Haydock these days is quite a sharp track. He's a really strong stayer. If he's there turning in, I'll have my head in my hands being crossed that I've not stayed loyal, because he'll come home really strongly. But I just don't know, be able to hang on to their coattails. And then the other one is Handstands, who I just do not think is as good as his rating suggests. He did beat Django Bai in the Scilly Isles, but Nico gave Django Bai a poor ride on that occasion. There could be no doubt about that. Django Bai was the best horse in the race. Ben Jones gave Handstands the best ride, and there was not much between it at the line. I thought he was pretty tepid on his return at Carlisle. I possibly got a poor ride. Got there, and went too soon and was a sitting duck for Resplendent Grey. But Resplendent Grey is a dour stayer. Shouldn't be beating him over that 2.5 mile trip with the Colin Parker. So I could have egg on my face, but I'd be surprised if he's good enough. And then that just means that it's Grey Dawning. He was 11-8. He's now 11-10. It's short enough, but I think he just wins, TC.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I agree with you. I do want to just do an in-running tally. That is 3 Dan Skelton horses that you've put up so far. There are more to come. Yes, he's rated 166, Grey Dawning. Haiti Couleur's rated 154 for all. He's a very good and improving horse. He's got £12 to find just on figures. Royal Pagaille is £7 inferior to Grey Dawning. He's not improving at the age of 11. Handstands, as you say, I agree with you on all basis there. I don't think he's going to be a major player here. I thought his reappearance was disappointing, and I definitely agree that Django Bay should have won at Sandown last year. More on Django Bay in a second. And then Stellar Story, the outsider, he's just a plodder who potentially will need the run after a long break. So, yeah, I just think this is a matter of Grey Dawning going out there and doing it. Last year, he should have won this race. He hit the front going towards the last, and he just made a complete pig's ear of it. He got in deep. He was awkward in his shape over the fence. He got from one side to the other, but he lost all momentum, and that enabled Royal Pagaille to come back. And that was on much more testing ground. He should relish the conditions this time. And we're probably going to be talking about another Dan Skelton victory early in the season. Right, briefly before we move on to our final in-depth race preview, Ross, there is great racing at Ascot on Saturday as well. We have the Ascot Hurdle, which hopefully I'll cover a little bit later, maybe you as well. And we've also got the 1965 Chase. I want to focus in briefly on that one, purely because Pic D'Orhy's looking for his third consecutive win in the race. He faces Il Est Français. Who knows what to make of this horse? I don't think he's very good. He ran one great race in the King George, finished second behind Banbridge. I want to know your opinions on him. But it's not even just a two-horse race. There's Gidley Park. There is Django Bay in the field. Quite a good contest, this.
Yeah, I was surprised it wasn't on our list for selections, but I messaged the producer and said, look, my boy Dan hasn't got the runner in it, so I don't want to cover it. What do I make of Il Est Français? He's clearly got massive lungs, and sadly he's got a very small heart. He just, as soon as he gets eyeballed, he just folds like a deck chair, doesn't he? But he just in receipt of weight from all of these. He's going right-handed. He's got nice ground. I won't be backing him, but I have some sympathy with people that look at it and go, he goes off the front, but then you look at it, they all go off the front. He's going to have to contend with Pic D'Orhy, who will eyeball him from the start. Gidley Park will get into a rhythm over the first couple under Brian Carver, and then he'll go forward and eyeball them. It could be a proper burn-up up front. I love Gidley Park. I think he's a super horse, and I think he's going to win plenty of races this year. He should have won the Manifesto last year. I was backed him. I was screaming at my TV for Brian Carver to have kicked him into that second last because he had the scope to get there if he'd have been asked for it. He didn't get asked for it. He still tried to do it, and the two of them landed in a heap. But he's coming back off a break, and I think they struggle to train him, so he might just lack the fitness here. Django Bay, this is his trip, but he was late coming in. He returned lame when he was third in the Manifesto. He's being trained towards the King George. So I've got one eye on him with a view to the King George. If I was given a free bet, I don't think Master Chewy's out of this because they'll wait off the back with him. He's a talented horse, and the further he goes in trip, I think the better he's going to go. They persisted over 2 miles for a long time last season. I don't think that's his trip, and I think he jumps better when he's going a little bit slower. It's a really interesting race. Plenty of clues, on offer going forward. Should say Pic D'Orhy ran really well in the Charlie Hall because I was pretty dismissive of him. I didn't think he'd fancy 3 miles around there, but he did a pretty good job. No bet for me. If someone offered me a free bet, I'd have it on Master Chewy, but it's definitely a race worth watching for the rest of the season.
For sure, it's really competitive. And as you say, the pace dynamic here is interesting with both Il Est Français and Pic D'Orhy desperate to get to the front. And both of these horses don't really like being pace pressured. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens in the 1965 Chase. That's at Ascot on Saturday. Our final in-depth preview is on Sunday, and it's a Punchestown over in Ireland. The Grade 1 John Durkan. This race will be run at 3 p.m. Now, we're recording this on Thursday morning, as already mentioned, so no final declarations at the time of talking about this race. The current favourite, however, is Factor File at 5-4. You've got the likes of Gaelic Warrior in there as well. Gold Cup winner, I Know the Way You're Thinking, making his seasonal reappearance. Fast or Slow, who has a really good record fresh. Quite a good heat, this, Ross. I'm going to go out there straight away because I think I've got a slightly stronger opinion than you here. I just think Factor File will win this race. I think he's the best horse over this distance, and that is the crucial aspect. Fast or Slow, I want over further. The same for I Know the Way You're Thinking, who's obviously being campaigned for the spring with the Gold Cup and then maybe the Grand National. And I don't like Gaelic Warrior. I just never back the horse. So I know he's a short price, but Factor File to me is the best 2.5 mile chaser right now. So I want him on top.
Yeah. Factor File, the 2.5 mile chaser, not the potential Gold Cup horse to see. Yeah, I agree with you. Factor File is, I will say it, comfortably the best horse in this field. In terms of ability, just doesn't stay an extended 3 miles, I don't think. The only reason I'm not on the bandwagon, it's a no bet race for me, is I just feel that Willie Mullins is very relaxed this season because they've not had the amount of rain early in the autumn. That some of his are just needing a run. Now, I don't see why you wouldn't target this John Durkan with Factor File because it is his trip. It's not like you're trying to build him up for a 3 mile race. So he should be fit enough, and if he's fit enough, I think he's definitely good enough. Gaelic Warrior, be interested to see what he does because he took a long time to come to hand last year. They seem pretty adamant they're going for the King George, but I've heard that before and they've not turned up. I know the way you're thinking, definitely he's going to need it. He needs further, and Gavin Cromwell's form is pretty rancid at the moment. You have to say, yeah, good race, fast or slow. It'd be nice to see him back because he'll add something to the Gold Cup dynamic or the 3 mile chase dynamic. I'll watch it and cheer on Factor Far because I love him, but I won't be having any money on.
And are there any others on that Punchestown card? I know it's very early. You can definitely say no to this, but is there anything else on that Punchestown card on Sunday that interests you at this stage?
Yeah, one Kilbarry Saint in the 227 novice chase. Not the best horse in the race, but is going to get her conditions. She handles heavy ground really well. She'll stay really well. I thought a few of them that look like they'll be ahead of her in the market perhaps don't want these sort of conditions, and it'll just be interesting as well to see how she goes with the Spindlebury form because Spindlebury's been very well talked up. One on Saturday actually as well. Rocky's Diamond I think is interesting to watch in the Florida Pearl. Again, heel like conditions. We should just say the Morgiana's turned into a bit of a no contest, hasn't it? You know, Lossie Matthews going there. Does mean that maybe we're going to get to see Amsterdam over in the fighting fifth, which might add a little bit of interest to that race going forward because that'll be Constitution Hill versus the New Line versus Amsterdam. But yeah, on Saturday, Punchestown, Rocky's Diamond was one that I like the look of, but I haven't gone into it in great depth.
Yeah, that is another good card at Punchestown on Saturday. Good card, as I say. Lossiemouth obviously being the main attraction, but that race, the Morgiana's only got 4 runners in it now. Ironsi, the second favourite, also trained by Willie Mullins. So it should just be a return to action for Lossiemouth, where she finds herself in the winner's circle again. But definitely watch the race. She is one of the best to do it right now, and it's a pleasure always to watch her strut her stuff. Right. Lots of races covered there. We have still got plenty of action that we haven't talked about, the likes of the Haydock undercard, same for Ascot, with the Ascot Hurdle. There's also racing on the all-weather in the evening and Punchestown that we've just mentioned. So where are you going to go with your 2 Napa next best place?
You did a good job to keep a straight face on NTC. And I hadn't actually figured out that I'd picked so many from the yard, but my nap is a Dan Skelton trained horse. It's Cabral de Matan, makes his debut for this yard in the 115 at Haydock 2 mile 3 handicap hurdle. Has joined Dan from his former boss, Paul Nichols, who I think made a pretty moderate job of training this horse last year. If I'm honest, I think it was as plain as nose in your face. This is the horse needed further than 2 miles, and he clearly felt like he could nick a 2 mile handicap with a horse that was well handicapped. He didn't. He bumped into a Willie Mullins horse at the Scottish National Festival in 2 mile handicap hurdle, fast finishing second on that occasion off a mark of 139. Second at Windsor behind the Secret Squirrel. He was trying to give that horse. Well, he came out £13 better than the Secret Squirrel on official ratings. Secret Squirrel rated 133. He runs off 140 here for Skelton. First time after a win Doc he's had through the summer. I think it's the first runner that Skelton's had for these owners, and they've sent a few horses his way. We've seen in the last week that Dan Skelton is a very ambitious man. He wants the owners to put money behind him. I think this will be ready to go first time out, and I think he'll win the 115 Cabral de Matan. And then the next best is not a Dan Skelton horse, it's a Joe Tizard horse. Joe Tizard going along at 32% strike rate. He's been absolutely flying the last fortnight, and it's Rocky's Way in the Berkshire National. He was 5th in the Scottish National off a mark of 133. He was runner-up in the National Hunt Chase. He would have been 3rd, but Gavin Cromwell's horse came down 2 out off a mark of 132. £7 or effectively £7 behind Haiti Clerks, who's now 154. I think he needed his reappearance run. Most of Joe Tizard's horses did. That came at Cheltenham in the October meeting over an inadequate 3 miles. He goes up in trip now to 3 mile 5. He's down to a mark of 131. It's a competitive staying race, but I just thought he had outstanding credentials for a yard that's clearly flying along.
Cabral de Matan then is Ross's nap in the 115 at Haydock, currently 9-4 at the time of recording. That's best price. And his next best is Rock My Way in the 205 at Ascot. No prices for that Berkshire National at the time of recording. There will be probably by the time you're watching this episode. My nap is a horse already mentioned, and that is Grey Dawning. Short price in the Betfair Chase, but should be shorter, in my opinion. Any odds against, I'm snapping up. This is very much like a July Flower situation from last week. She was a great price. I couldn't believe her SP, by the way. The reason some people did comment on my social media and on the comments here saying, why didn't you put her up on ITV? I genuinely thought she'd be 4-7, and she wasn't. Now, it could be the case with Grey Dawning. He could go off at a very short price. He won't be 4-7, but he might be 4-5. And that would just temper my enthusiasm a little bit. But if I can get odds against, I'm definitely taking him in the Betfair Chase as my nap. My next bet is an each-way play. I'll state the reasons in a second. It comes in the Ascot Hurdle at 240. I suppose the main reason is I don't know how good Woodhoe is, the favourite for Gordon Elliott. She flew up the ranks last year, winning handicap hurdle after handicap hurdle, a listed race, then went and ran second behind Lossiemouth at Aintree. She's obviously a very good horse, but I'm just not 100% convinced how good she is. That run against Lossiemouth, okay, she did push Willie Mullins' charge, but the actual horses she beat in that race weren't very good. Take No Chances finished third. He's rated 146, I think, or was at the time. And the fourth and the fifth are rated in the 130s. I kind of expected her to beat those. Constitution Hill fell, so we never got to see what his finishing effort would have been like. And she didn't manage to beat Lossiemouth. So she ran the position that she should have ran. I don't know about how good her previous form was. The handicap that she won at Cheltenham is a deep field, but the horses in there aren't grade 2 caliber. So I'm a little bit tepid on her, and she's the favourite. So I want to take her on, and Celtic Dino or Celtic Dino is the horse I want to do it with. He beat the subsequent Greatwood Hurdle winner Alexi at Chepstow on the return. I love the finishing effort that day from him. To me, it suggested extra distance would be no problem. He has winning course form at Ascot as well, and he's around 7 or 8 to 1. So I'll take him each way at a good price, and let's hope that Woodhoe isn't as good as Build. Right then, all done. Absolutely pumped ahead of a great weekend of action, not just Saturday, but Sunday as well. Graded jumps action both days. I'm sure most of us are just going to be sat in front of the TV and watching. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you did like it, please whack the thumbs up button just down below. Subscribe to SBK as well, so you don't miss out on any future content there. That includes these podcasts, but also Miller's Movers, which you can watch on a weekly basis. Also, if you haven't signed up yet to SBK in terms of their betting account, then please go and do so. New customers will get £50 in free bets when they sign up and bet their first £10. T's and C's do apply to that offer, but go and check that out on the website or the app in the promotions section. SBK also has a 20% winnings boost on the 225 at Haydock on Saturday. Again, T's and C's apply for that offer. However, if you like something in the race, you'll get a bigger return, as I say, every week than any other bookmaker. So bet with SBK in that specific contest. That's all from myself, Tom Collins, and that man, Ross Skelton Millar. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.